The U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, scheduled for December 13th to the 15th in Washington, D.C., will bring together African heads of state and government and African entrepreneurs to advance mutually beneficial partnerships that create jobs and drive inclusive and sustainable growth on both sides of the Atlantic. Analysts say there are high hopes and expectations on whether this long-standing commitment to Africa strengthens the ties between the United States and the African nations. For more insight, Africa 54's Paul Ndiho caught up with Nii Simmonds, a business analyst based here in Washington.
It's a really great way to support, to use U.S. hegemony, U.S. leadership to bring all these allies together to support all these countries. And how can the diaspora who are in the U.S. Working at U.S. companies be used as a leverage to support this? So the U.S. government has a really good chance to take you mentioned the aforementioned U.S. Africa Trade Summit during Biden administration 2014. That summit in itself was long overdue. What does that mean? We just don't want, I think we can't just sit back and just let these countries come to us and just ask the U.S. for budget support or monetary support. We need to also put the task to say, okay, well, what are your future goals? What's your 10-year goal to support infrastructure development? But at the same time, I think Africans also need to, we need to put these countries on notice and make sure that, it's not the same. It's not the same old business as come to the West, beg for money, and then go back and then do the same thing 4 or 5 years later. The diaspora really needs to engage and incentivize some of these countries to really do things differently and in a more systematic manner and make sure it's sustainable.
There are some interesting areas that this particular summit will be focusing on. They're going to be focusing on entrepreneurship on the continent. How can the U.S. help young people? They're also talking about innovation. They're looking across the continent, looking for young, innovative minds. It looks like they're shifting from looking at the leaders, the leadership on the continent, but also putting their attention or focusing on the young people, what young people are doing across the continent.
That's a very good point, Paul. Look, that not only needs to be done, it needs to be a tool to not only encourage but incentivize. But I think there needs to be some language to say, well, look, you have to have a mandate to engage youth. There has to be if you're providing healthcare or any type of program through USAID, there has to be a youth component. What does that mean? Youth has to be employed. The U.S. government needs to, find ways to use its current systems to engage youth, because if you put that into a USAID package, right? By definition, there's so many. And you can create jobs overnight.
Thank you so much for your time, Nii.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate it.
That was Africa 54's Paul Ndiho speaking to Nii Simmonds, a business analyst based here in Washington, D.C.